Hello and welcome to Autodidactica. I am half a host, Glenn Clark.
I am a whole host, Matt Paul.
Well, that makes us a host and a half.
Yeah,
That's like
two and a half
a
men.
ho ho and a Twinkie, half a
Yeah,
Twinkie. I don't
I
know.
miss Twinkies.
I miss Twinkies as well. That was my literal favorite food as a teenager,
I went
though I
through a
didn't have them
phase.
often. Yeah, that's pretty much me.
You ever dip them in coffee? Good stuff.
Oh, that sounds like a good idea.
It's good stuff. They go great with coffee.
I
Any
bet
sort of
they
shortcake
do.
goes great with coffee or
Bet they
sponge cake.
do. I put ketchup on Oreos. And
Yeah.
that was recent, and they're really good.
Yeah, I
Just
don't
open
doubt
them
it.
up, put a little ketchup on there.
I really don't
Hmm.
doubt it. I don't think there is anything in this world that ketchup can make worse. Like ketchup
Right?
is the holy grail of all sauces. But anyway,
It's
we're
maybe true.
Autodidactica and we're
Right.
weirdos.
We're total weirdos, possibly geniuses, possibly morons.
Inquisitive, possible
Yes,
geniuses, possible
autodidacts.
morons. That's what
Because
we are.
yeah, we strive to not be morons. So this is part two of what we're calling Who Even Are We, where we're just kind of delving into each other's minds a bit. Last week, Matt drilled my mind. This week, I'm drilling into his. So,
Lobotomies.
yeah, we're doing lobotomies. Uneducated
Live.
men, autodidacts doing lobotomies, the best we learned how by watching ER. And I never watched ER. So, good
I
luck to
watched that
you.
movie, Sucker Punch.
I never saw that either.
Lobotomies. We getting all Kennedy up in here.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Didn't
Okay.
they lobotomize like his mom or sister?
Kennedy.
I think one of the Kennedy's
Oh my
sisters.
gosh, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I thought they were just referring to getting shot in the head.
No, and that's what I realized after I had said it, because that's where
Uh-huh.
what I would have thought of first too. But my
Yeah.
dad loved the Kennedys, so he was always telling me all about, did you know that the youngest daughter of the Kennedys, was locked up and lobotomized and
No,
sent
yeah, it's
places.
true.
And
I remember that
when
now.
in
It's
all,
like,
when in actuality, all she did was, have sex once or something.
yeah, yeah, no,
Like
like,
she was not a crazy woman. She just did not fit in with the mob and the CIA, and she
right.
was a liability, and so we had to take her out of the
Hmm.
public sphere.
Yeah.
So what do we do? Well, whatever possible in the 1950s.
Lobotomy.
Yeah,
Ooh.
good
Ooh.
stuff.
It's terrible. It
And that's
scares
what we're
me.
doing today.
Yeah, we're lobotomizing Matt for science.
Yeah, make the voices stop.
Or make them start, or make them louder, or more
Yeah,
fun.
science can't tell us which one happens whenever you stick a long metal rod into my cranium and up through my nose. Or no, is it through the nose? I think there's different ones. Through
I
the
thought it
nose,
was
through
through
the
the
eye.
eye. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, yeah,
I think there's a nasal lobotomy too.
yeah. Well, they're
It's
all
whatever
bad
it's whatever
ideas,
part of the brain you need to poke to shut off
right?
the crazy
Yeah,
or
and
turn it on.
it just kind of shuts you off. It just turns you into a noodle. Like I don't think that counts as a cure. I don't think that's a success. Well, she's not crazy anymore. Well, she's
As she
not
sits there
aware
drooling.
anymore. She's a fungus. I don't know, fungus. Let's not get into fungi.
She's a fun guy.
uh, you're a silly man. All right. So let's figure you out. I mean, I guess I got to put on my fake eyes for this or my real eyes. I don't know. You're twirling your mustache. All right. Oh, look at that. I wasn't even at the top of this thing. So you are Matthew Paul.
Yep.
I
That's what
think
they call
that's
me.
true. That's what they call you. What I call you isn't as nice.
It's true.
So all right. So here's how we're gonna start. Tell us about an aspect of your character that you are the most proud of.
Jesus. Um,
Jesus is an aspect of your character.
he once was.
Oh, that's true. But is it the aspect you're mo most proud of?
Oh man. I think it's my adaptability.
Ah,
I think I think it's my cool under fire
okay.
uh sort of mentality to where I can roll with the punches pretty easily. So as far as like my characterization, like whenever I'm, changing a spare tire and then, I bash my hand into the thing trying to get a lug nut off and then,
Mm,
I can just roll that off and then when I do it the lug nut goes flying down the freeway and that's fine. I can handle that and then the whole time my mom is calling me because she can't open a jar or just like life can keep coming at me like that and I'll
uh-huh.
still have a goofy smile on my face just like right now pretty much and I don't punch walls. I'm pretty chill. So I think that's probably my when I mean when life hands you lemons, say fuck the lemons and bail. You know, it's a quote from Forgetting Sarah Marshall that I absolutely love.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, as far as my character traits that I am proud of, I suppose it would be my ability to keep getting back up when I get knocked down, go with the flow, adapt to the situation, make rational decisions while under stress. And yeah, because I mean, I have plenty of character faults. You know, it's definitely easier to count my things that I am proud of
Hmm.
because the list is much shorter.
Oh, really?
Um,
So, I mean,
yeah.
would you say, like, just building on that, would you say that you more like your character or dislike your character if it sounds like you have more faults in your estimation?
Um, I like my character. I like my character's place in my story. Like, the hero can't be a Mary Sue. You have to have people cover your weaknesses and such. And I have plenty of talented friends that are like more because I often consider myself like a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Mm,
And that sometimes sort of bugs me because I can't fricking decide on one thing to get really good at.
hmm.
I don't have the drive to get really good at any one thing. Whereas I know people that have like honed their craft and are really, really good at it.
Hmm.
Not without effort. I don't like the notion of, talent per se. I definitely think talent plays a role in certain things, but I don't like people negating people's hard work when
Hmm.
like, oh, you're so talented is kind of a backhanded compliment.
Hmm.
That is often not no malintent behind.
Right.
But yeah, no, I know plenty of people that are super awesome at the thing they've chose to chase. And I'm just like, that looks cool. Let me try that. That looks cool. Let me try that. That looks
Hmm.
cool. Let me try that. And so I get moderately good at a lot of things, but I wish I could just settle on one, but everything's so damn interesting.
True story.
And so, that's a character flaw of mine, but flaw in a very soft sense. Like
Hmm.
it is not going to be my death flag, where is not going to bring about my demise.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't there one of the Ptolemies? I don't know. Maybe even the first one, who they called Beta? Or am I thinking of someone else? Like they called him Beta because he was the second best at everything in the world. He's kind of like jack of all trades, master of none. He wasn't the best at anything, but he was the second best at like everything because he tried it all.
Yeah, I mean, and there's an extension to that phrase. It's like jack of all trades, master of none, has more skill than a master of one, or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
same premise.
and so I do jive with that whole phrase.
Hmm.
Um, but even without the addendum to that, I still I still like being a jack of all trades. I can't
Yeah.
do everything well, but or I can't do a lot of stuff super good, but I can do a lot of stuff well.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I have people to cover for me on, I have, I've got you for a lot of creative queries.
Hmm.
Um, I've got, Chase for anything video game related.
Hmm.
Um, I've got Courtney and Michelle for anything. Well, Courtney's different. I've got Courtney for anything like organizationally
Hmm.
or decoratively. I've got Michelle for anything like super duper adulty that I don't know how to do, like
Hmm.
insurance and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, yeah, I got Kagan for he's another creative outlet, but a different one. More what do you call that? The the
Well,
physical
he's a
arts.
tattooist,
Yeah, he's
right?
a
He's a
tattooist, so painting and artistry in that fashion.
mhm.
And but he's also really good at construction and stuff like that. So if I
Right,
need somebody
yeah.
to do my floors for me to put in new hardwood, Kagan can do that. So yeah, I've got
Mhm.
tons of people that are more
Specialized,
specialized.
yeah.
So maybe that's another thing that I'm proud of is like my social sphere, like
Mm,
my I guess my networking. Um,
right.
I you know I what did I see? I saw a post recently, and it's like the measure of how I measure a man's worth is how many guys does he know? Like, I got a guy for that. I got a guy
Right,
for that.
right. Like
I got a
the
guy for that.
if you wish to know the measure of a man, you simply count his friends or something
Ah,
like that. But it's a little bit different because you're talking about I
it
got a
was a
guy
joke.
for no, I
Yeah.
know. But it's
And
still like it's I like that.
it's I mean this that was a very King what is that King James Bible version of what I was saying.
No, probably more like Dickens or the Muppets. I don't know.
Sure. Same thing.
Like I remember that phrase from the Muppets version of A Christmas Carol, so it could have been both. I don't know if that
Interesting.
was Dickens or the Muppets, but it stuck with me.
Right on.
Um, all right. So ready to move on from that one?
I
Because
am. That was a fun one.
all right, all right.
I knew you were
That's
gonna have
just
good ones.
that's
That
just
that was the
the
tip of the iceberg right there.
exactly that's just pecking on the surface there. We're gonna drill
You're gonna have
deeper
to cut
now.
a lot of silence out of this
Of
video,
our dude,
probably.
I have to, and that's what takes me the longest editing Autodidactica and my I can't sleep videos is just the long pauses where we're just because we both do it where we
Yeah,
sit there to find the right word, and that's not a bad thing. We can fix it in editing, but it jeez, it takes a long time.
because you have to watch the whole thing.
Yes. And then I have to make sure I cut at the right point to where it doesn't squeeze the words too close
Eventually, we'll have
together or
AI do that.
maybe.
Just have
Yeah,
AI watch the
true.
video, cut out, edit it.
Yeah, but I'm not at the point where I fully trust AI yet.
True dat.
Okay, so moving on. What do you consider your greatest accomplishment in life thus far? And tell us that story. You just sit there with smoke coming out of your head, literally.
God. Ooh, my greatest accomplishment. That was probably pretty quiet there because I was staring at the ceiling instead of into the mic. Man, that one's tough because I feel like at this point in my life, I have yet to reach my potential.
You may yet
Um,
accomplish more, but
yeah, true.
thus far, that's
I suppose
that's
it's
what I'm getting at.
just
Oh,
it probably can't be narrowed down to any one thing,
okay.
but more like a place in time.
Mm-hmm.
Like like right now, I'm very content with the life that I've crafted
Mm.
for myself. Like, yeah, there's a lot that needs improving, but I like the trajectory that I'm on. And like, so as far as like specific life accomplishments, I think we've already mentioned this on here. We can, I don't really care either way, but like, my dad passed away last year,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I have handled the aftermath and the fallout of that quite well.
Mm.
quite splendidly. And, with most aspects involved, like, emotionally and physically and financially, and, carrying out the will of your father is like a huge burden, but I feel like I've shouldered it fairly well along with my
Hmm.
brother and sister up to this point. And so yeah, that's been a huge like thing that I'm proud of too. Like I was left a torch and I'm carrying it
Hmm.
like gleefully almost. Like, I'm happy to do it. And so I mean that's the first thing that came to mind, honestly, but that also ties into like where I'm at,
Hmm.
with my place in the world.
So talk
Um,
talk about that. Like, what is the trajectory that you see yourself on that you're content with?
well, I mean, I don't have a bad job.
Hmm.
I've got room for improvement in it.
Hmm.
I'm basically following in the footsteps of my father, to become a registered professional land surveyor.
Hmm.
Um, and that sort of plays into my character that I like is
Hmm.
I'm very much the type of person that doesn't need to do what I love for a living. It doesn't really, yeah, it gets on my nerves sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, you know, come across a crappy job or this or that. But I just need my weekends. I need my a fair amount of weeknights. I need some vacation time, and most importantly, a steady stream of money. And
Hmm.
I'm pretty dang content. Like I'm very happy to trade my time um, for my pleasure, basically.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't, it's fulfilling to me. So yeah, I have a decent career on the way, with potential for growth. I have, a ton of friends. Um, I have, my dream car uh,
Hmm.
in the garage, and so that's like I like where things are heading, and I don't know what the future holds, but
Hmm.
I don't hate anything that I can foresee.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, as far as like trajectory goes, I don't know where I'm gonna land, because I'm gonna land in the ground one day, but the journey looks like it's gonna be a fun one. So
Okay.
that's sort of what I'm looking forward to. I can't tell you what's gonna happen, but yesterday was pretty cool. The day before that was and that's all Matt Paul really needs is for things to be Daijobu. Um, everything just needs to be all right. So
Okay.
yeah,
Good, good.
a little bit
Um,
vague there, but I'm just not gonna I'm not gonna hypothesize for what might or might not happen in the future. I'm gonna go to college. Maybe I want to become a land surveyor. Maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe I find something else in college that's cool. But um, I'll definitely make an educated decision one way or the other if I think it's best to leave my profession or something like you know, because damn it, maybe I'll find something I am really passionate about.
uh, true, true. You never know.
You never know.
All right. So let's keep going. What is this is an easy one. Not really. I don't think I have any easy ones. Sorry. Not sorry.
No, these are
We're
fun.
going
I'm
deep.
I'm
We're
loving
gonna go
these.
deep. So what is the single most inspirational story you have ever been told, and how has it changed or affected your life? And like being told, that encompasses any it's not a story you have lived, but something you've either been told orally by someone or seen in a film or read in a book or seen on a television series. Just a story that has been brought to you from outside of your own experience. Um, Single most inspirational, and how has it changed or affected your life?
For those of you watching on YouTube, I was just looking at all my books. Oh man. Inspirational stories. I should have screened these questions beforehand because these are deep, but I did put you on the spot with a few of these too. So I gotta come up with something. Because I definitely am like I'm a tearer in movies. It could be the slightest things. And like they'll get me. It'll be things that, it's
Oh
not really
yeah.
meant to make you maybe it's just a moment that was meant to pull on the heartstrings, but
Right. No, I do too
I'll get
though.
into it. Like, because one thing that comes to mind, I just finished watching the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Uh-huh.
And then of course I couldn't resist rewatching the original Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Hmm.
Um, and now I'm into the sequel saga, which is The Legend of Korra.
Right, which you've
And
talked to me about for years.
yes,
Like,
so The Legend of Korra has always spoke to me
hmm.
more because I wasn't around when ATLA, Avatar: The Last Airbender, was in circulation. I was around, I just wasn't watching it.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, how
Yeah,
old are
no.
you again? Are you?
No, because it was coming out like that show was made for my generation.
Yeah.
Like very much, you know, Aang, the main character of ATLA, was 12 when I was 12,
Uh-huh.
and then he grows up as I was growing up. And then The Legend of Korra, which is the next saga, was made, well, again for my generation, and her story picks up Avatar, you know, master of all the elements. They have been reincarnated 1,000 times, and
Hmm.
Korra was the next one after Aang died.
Hmm.
And so, but Korra's story, the setting surrounds her at a elevated age, from
Right.
where Aang's story started.
I see.
So it was a little sooner, or rather, I was older than Korra when Korra premiered because it takes a
Hmm.
couple years to come up with the concept, get the pitches
Right.
across, so on and so forth. But she starts off and she's like 16. The oldest main character, a kid still, is like 18 when the story starts.
Hmm.
And but then by the end of book 4, there was a time jump and everybody was my age again. So
Hmm.
Korra was like 22 when I was 22, and so on
Gotcha.
and so forth. And so it was cool to yet again see this. Now I had to go back and rewatch ATLA um
Hmm.
as in when I was like 16 or 17. Um and then no, I guess I was pretty spot on with Korra's age then too, because uh yeah, I started watching that when I was like 16 or 17, and then watched it as it came out over the years.
Hmm.
But uh details. No, Korra goes through like a ton of metamorphosis, relationship issues, um, and deals with them. And the episodes are structured so neatly to
Hmm.
where you get to see her struggle while simultaneously seeing the people that love her struggle to tell her, to advise her on the right decisions to make.
Hmm.
Whereas you also, and then she ignores the decisions, gets in a mess of trouble. Things work out in the end. Maybe she uncovers a plot by her not listening to her elders. And then, but her elders, like it tells lessons of the teachers too. So the failings, her father learns that he was too hard on her and she needs to find her own path. Maybe I need to listen to her more. So it's not just daddy's the bad guy. Daddy learns too. And her teachers learn. Everybody's learning and evolving. And um so yeah, that one has always stuck with me. I don't know if I can give you some grand inspirational story,
Hmm.
um, or anyone, because I draw from a lot of my well is deep.
Hmm.
And
That's good.
yeah, and so Korra is huge. I
Like
like,
if you can't narrow it down to one, don't. But
yeah, that was never an option
good.
because there's so many things popped up into my mind.
Hmm.
I mean, what
But how
else? Go ahead.
Um, wait, let me see. How did I word it? Yeah, so I mean, how has it changed or affected your life?
Um, I guess it sort of taught me that like for one, advice giving and like to have perspective,
Hmm.
how like the way I see it may not be the way another person sees it. And when receiving or offering advice, you need to both try to see from another perspective
Hmm.
the best you can. And
Yeah.
so that's a large part of just Avatar in general, as from both sagas is perspective. Um, then there's the aspect of like, friendship and how it has its ups and downs. You
Hmm.
can, I mean, there are literal fights. There's a huge redemption arc
Mm.
in ATLA, and it's honestly my favorite characterization. There are two characters uh in ATLA that their arc is just glorious. It's a student teacher arc
Uh,
and a redemption arc, and it's just awesome. And so you know, your enemies don't have to stay your enemies.
hmm.
And
I like that. I love a good redemption arc.
oh, a good one. It's got to be a
Yeah,
good
it's
one.
got to be a good one,
It
not a
can't be
forced one.
forced. Yeah,
Yeah,
it can't be dumb. It can't make
yeah,
no sense.
yeah. Because some villains work better just being
Being bad.
villains to the end.
Yeah, like
Not
Vegeta.
everyone should get it.
Vegeta, a literal mass murderer. Now, granted, he was pretty much a slave, but
Right.
he still
And
had
that's
a
from Dragon Ball
Dragon Ball Z.
Z.
Yeah, his everybody gets a redemption arc in Dragon Ball. Pretty much. You got Frieza, you got Vegeta, you got Majin Buu. Um,
Hmm.
everybody's a friend, but you got to fight him to the death first. And
Gotcha.
but uh, yeah, no, I love that redemption arc, and so that's impacted me. That not everyone has to stay a bad guy in my life,
Hmm.
whether or not they become my friend too. It's probably more rare that they don't, but I don't dwell on hatred,
Hmm.
or at least I try not to. If I catch myself slipping, I try to snap myself out of it rather quick.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I mean that's a good one. I mean, you all know, you've all heard us talk. Star Wars is huge,
Yeah.
um, and maybe not so much like the quality of the story or the message, because I mean, we could spend all day. We will be spending quite a while on Star Wars,
Oh
on an
yeah, we're doing a
episode.
whole episode because it's
Yeah,
necessary.
it's necessary. And so I mean that one's been huge, but you know, a lot of that for me is time and place. It's been inspirational, going there with your parents
Hmm.
whenever I was a kid. I was a
Yeah.
kid and they, took me to see The Phantom Menace, took me to see Attack of the Clones, and took me to see Revenge of the Sith, and, you know, all of the merchandise and the toys and the video games. Like,
Hmm.
so inspiration, I don't know, but it definitely has impacted.
Right. Because
And
our culture is saturated in Star Wars.
mhm. And I mean, as I've gotten older, the story has become more interesting to me because I
Hmm.
can, regardless of what the new Disney canon is doing to anything, it
Hmm.
is very fun for me to speculate, and
Yeah.
sort of look at it in more of a gray wash
Hmm.
than the good guys versus bad guys story that
Right.
it kind of is.
Hmm.
And they're making it more gray, and the extended universe did as well. But episodes 4, 5, and 6 is good guys versus bad guys,
Right.
and on a surface level. And same thing with episodes 1, 2, and 3 is
I feel like
uh
episode one, two, and three it was grayer, but
it was
it's
because it was the
your
fall. It was the fall
Yeah.
of Anakin, so it does get a little more gray.
Mhm.
Up to the point where he slaughters a bunch of kids, but that's pretty black and white at that point,
Right.
or in
Yeah,
Star
pretty
Wars, red
much.
and blue. Um, but yeah, as you get older, you're able to sort of look at the Jedi as space wizards that abduct children and
Like they have their
convert them,
flaws. They're
forcibly convert them to their religion,
uh-huh.
and are so pious and on their high horse that they can't see that their role in the galaxy is changing, and they're refusing to change with it because they're peacekeepers, not generals.
Mhm.
Well, they ended up becoming them anyway, and
Right.
the whole time they've got this conflicted existence. Anyway, so yeah, it Star Wars has sparked a lot of inspiration in me to like not look at everything as so black and white, I guess.
Mhm.
You know, sort of like you talked about in your I Can't Sleep video that I watched.
Oh, the Jar Jar.
The tragedy of Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it gets you thinking, and so I guess that's something that Star Wars has given me in terms of inspiration, is the ability to or the desire to look past surface level,
Mhm.
and so that yeah, that I guess that pretty much sums up a little peek into what inspires me.
Yeah.
Is I I do love a good story.
Oh yeah.
I've just got so many of them, and every one of them gives me inspiration. Like I could read the worst piece of dog crap, and I
Uh-huh.
will still probably
Yeah, you'll take something
I'll
from
take
it.
something from it.
That's, I
Um,
had a college professor who I took all of her classes, literally. Every class she taught I took, and one of the things she would say is that humans are addicted to narrative. I guess that's why I wanted to ask that question because it's true. Like we're
yeah,
the storytelling animal, so I wanted to know what are the stories that you
the
carry with
carry.
you at your core? Like what are the stories that have come from outside of yourself that mean something to you? So that's why I asked that question. So I kind of didn't expect you to have just one. Even
True.
though I asked for one, that was just kind of like narrow it to get you thinking of what could be the one. And it would probably be several, but you at least narrow it down to like things that orbit the core, so to
Yeah, I was gonna
speak.
think of no, I was gonna try to come up with a video game too, but I
Hmm.
can't think of any. Not a lot of video games really inspire me.
Right.
They
They're
just sort
more
of
fun.
stimulate me,
Yeah, that's a
and
good way to put it.
so a lot of them, I mean, there are some good ones, but
Hmm.
nothing really that I carry with me to my core.
Hmm.
Like I have like 3 or 4 Monster Hunter tattoos at this point, but that's just because the art in the game is really cool,
Yeah,
and I freaking love that game. So
right. But not
not really.
necessarily an
There's no story.
inspirational
There's no
story.
story.
It's just you go
Yeah,
hunt the
I
monsters.
get and then I make a belt out of them, and then I go and hunt their brethren to make the matching shoes.
That's what I do with my enemies.
Yeah, amen.
Okay, so anything else you want to add to that one?
Uh, unless you want to turn it into a whole episode,
All
then
right,
we
all
can
right.
move on.
Maybe that could be a topic someday, like in
What
season two, the
inspires you?
stories that inspire us.
Oh, that's a good one.
It
Write that
is.
down,
I should. I shall.
because then I can prepare.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And,
Like if
and
we can
and then I can
prepare.
prepare. I can come to you, be like, "Hey, you need to watch this
Right. We
so
need to
we
get on the
can
same
talk
page
about it."
about them. Hmm.
Yeah, and just anything you've got, you're like, you need to watch this.
Yeah.
2001: A Space Odyssey. Let's go.
Hmm.
And you know,
I'd get you to watch. Yeah, several things. Yeah, we should do that. Should be a topic in the next one, next season.
good call.
Um, all right. So moving on from there, then all of mine go. Like, are you worn out yet? Sorry about this.
No, this is. Do you see the smile on my face? This is fun.
Okay,
Yeah,
good. If it's stimulating, we're good. But
I'm a bit of a
yeah.
narcissist. If you didn't know that
Oh, I'm
already,
well
I
aware of
love
that.
talking about myself. That's why I can never get a second date.
Uh, All right. So, if your life were condensed into a single narrative from 1994 right up to this moment, how would you articulate its core theme or themes?
I could take that question several different ways
Please do.
because the articulation of a theme implies the creation of a thematic device or the implementation of a thematic device.
Mhm.
Um, so, one of my answers could be, let's make it an opera, you know,
I guess I mean, well, more like what I'm trying to say is how would you explain or communicate? Like, I guess what is the theme? What are the core themes? Like, how would
right.
you break it down? I guess, but you could do it again any way you want. You can answer. It's your
Well, I mean,
lobotomy, man.
yeah,
Tell
right.
it like you want to.
Yeah.
Matt Paul the opera. I might see that. I don't know. No, don't put that in your eye. Those of
Okay,
you
for those of
listening, he's holding up a really big needle that I have questions about. Like, why
it's
is there a giant
it's a
needle in your room?
kebab thing that Sarah
Oh,
left over here at the New Year's party,
okay.
and it's a useful tool.
Oh, okay. They were trying
Yeah.
to find all of those. All right.
Well,
We
they left
couldn't.
one behind,
Yeah, I
and I
know. And
found
we were
it.
trying to find it. Okay.
Yeah, it's mine now. I use it to open up the air hole on my coffee cups. That's literally what I use it for. Um,
That's fantastic. All right.
I like tools. But
Right. So,
yeah, so the central theme to Matt Paul's life from
right.
1994 would probably be uh the burden of sort of like resilience, I guess. Resilience and maybe dependability would be
Hmm.
the central themes. I'm the oldest brother of
Hmm.
of three siblings, and quickly became their example from an early age.
Hmm.
And we had a lot of unsupervised time
Hmm.
where I was the one in charge. Um, and so and I struggled with that for a long time, like how much I was being depended on
Hmm.
at the age I was at,
Hmm.
and feeling like it was unfair. Like why do I have to do this? Um, Other kids my age aren't having to deal with X or Y, dealing with a
Hmm.
younger brother and a younger sister. And so yeah, there was a lot of that. I mean, that was half my life up to a certain point. Now I'm getting
Hmm.
older, and
Much, much older.
yeah, and I mean, I guess I
Very
guess at this
old
point it's
man.
still about half my life. I'm almost 30, so I mean,
Uh-huh.
I still am dealing with being the oldest brother,
Hmm.
especially now that dad's gone. I'm now fielding all of the hey dad questions from my younger brother and sister, uh,
Hmm. Yeah.
and so it's been a ride of and I do take pride in being the oldest sibling. Have you ever seen the movie Brother Bear?
Yes.
Love that movie.
Love that movie.
Um, if you don't recall, their brother died at
Uh-huh.
their oldest brother, and I've always
Yeah.
identified really strongly with that dude.
Because you're dead.
Yeah, because I'm dead. Well, for one thing, he had a really cool spirit animal, which was an eagle.
Uh-huh.
Um, and he was like guiding his younger brothers the whole time, and the middle brother like lost his way because he thought the bear that um the main character turned into was the bear that killed his younger brother,
Right.
when in fact it was the oldest brother who turned the youngest brother into a bear for a lesson to not take lives when you don't have to.
Hmm.
But anyway, I always identified really heavily with that guy,
Hmm.
um, because of his guidance and his sort of forgiveness and the way he's able to sort of I take pride in the accomplishments of my younger siblings, and that 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 pride has been repaid with gratitude from my younger siblings, and that's just an unbelievable feeling
Mm-hmm.
to receive. I've sacrificed things
Yeah.
for my kid siblings, and to have it turn around and be, repaid with gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
you know that stuff, shakes me to my core. Like when my brother thanked me for taking the brunt of our our upraising, or
Mm-hmm.
our upbringing, on the chin, so that way he could have a better chance of succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
And so just the fact that even a small bit of what I endured helped him to get to where he wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I, didn't, you know, when at the time, I could have hated what I was doing, taking him to piano lessons, taking him to football practice, or,
Right.
the little things that I had to put up with that I may have hated at the time. The fact that they actually meant something, it's a pretty cool feeling. Um, so yeah, I guess just the central theme to my life would be, yeah, I don't know how you would put that all into a single word. What I'm trying to say is like guidance and
Mm-hmm.
resilience and, I guess, patience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, that I don't know how much further I can break it down there. Um, it'd be a cool, and as far as, like, the way I took the question the first time about, how would I
Mm-hmm.
break it down,
Yeah.
I do write, poetry, I guess is what you would call it. I
Yeah.
write a lot of lyrics. And
Uh-huh.
so that would be the thematic device that I would probably most likely
Mm.
explore the theme of my life. Um, and that's the theme that I have done in the past, is using that, um,
Right.
artistically. I don't really have a lot of other outlets.
Mm.
I guess that's my outlet of choice, I should say.
Yeah, and you're good at it.
I'd like to think I am pretty good at it. I do
Mm-hmm.
like words.
Yeah.
Um, I can't remember the word for liking words.
Oh,
Um,
that's fun. I didn't know there was a word for liking
oh, there's a
words.
word for liking anything.
That's true. We got a lot of words in this language and others. Like we just take some words out of other languages and keep them as they are.
If only I had like a computer right in front of me.
We're
A
surrounded by
logophile.
information. Logophile.
Yeah,
I
I
love
remember
that
that one.
word. I'm
Lover
gonna
of
bring that up
words.
to this new guy they hired where my day job where
I may be even on the brink of being a
logophile.
logomaniac.
Maniac
Um,
anyway, but
yeah,
logo logo maniac. That's an actual word.
yeah.
Love it. There used to be Lego commercials,
A
a
Lego
Lego
maniac.
maniac. And that's what I'm thinking. We have a logo maniac, like that old jingle, that song pops in my head.
Let's see. Also called, this is from, thoughtco.com.
Mhm.
Also called a word lover. That's too basic.
That's
A
way
word
too
lover would
basic.
never refer to themselves as a word lover. They would find a word that,
Like, what was it?
like
Was it logo
logophile.
file? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Or
yeah, a
a,
word lover is gonna call themselves a logo file.
yeah,
Hmm.
philo, philologos.
Whoa.
Yeah, that sounds, I'm not going to use that one. But yeah, no, I do like writing lyrics. I haven't done it in a while. I've done it, here and thing. I haven't written with music in mind,
Hmm.
in a while.
Right.
Because I don't have anyone to give me cool music to write lyrics to.
Right.
And I'm getting better at it, but I'm not quite at the level of crafting my own music.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this is a weird trick, but I haven't found anything it doesn't work with. So like, my next Legends of Nod novel is about a lyricist, a singer, songwriter character. And I'm like, how do I write that to music? Because I'm not a musically minded person. But, a trick I learned back when I was a teenager is that you can take any song and sing it to the tune of Amazing Grace.
Yeah, that's true.
And like, so that's how I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna write with that tune in my head, and then that's not gonna really be the tune, but I'll have at least a rhythmic lyric to work with. But yeah, that's fun. Like you could do that, is all I'm saying. If you don't have music in your head, you just write words to fit the tune.
Apple bottom jeans, boots with the fur.
Right?
Yeah, you can.
Any song.
The whole club was looking. Yeah, anyway.
Oh,
Um,
great.
but yeah, no, I have done it in the past where I've taken instrumentals to songs and rewritten the lyrics. I
Yeah.
mean, just to see if I still got it.
Uh-huh.
And just to I guess what do you call it? Grease the axles.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's the medium I would choose to convey the theme of my life. Fun
Poetry,
question.
lyrics.
Yeah.
I love that. So yeah, write an opera. Matt Paul the
Yeah.
opera. Every word is
Can't
sung.
stand opera.
I don't know. Carmen's pretty good.
Okay, whatever. Name another opera.
Another opera.
That's just the
Uh,
one everyone knows.
Kill the Wabbit.
Oh god. That was a good one.
All right. So, another easy question. What would you say is the experiential love of your life? Not a person, place, or thing, no nouns, but an experiential love. Describe that experience and your relationship with that experience. So, this doesn't, it could be a one-time experience. It could be something that you experience regularly or sporadically, an experience or type of experience, that is, as far as experiences go, the love of your life, like the experience that you, or yeah, just you're in love
This
with it.
one actually is easy.
Is it?
Yeah, this
Oh,
one actually is pretty easy. I actually can think of three. Um, three that uh two of them coincide with each other. One of them is a little more sentimental, I would guess, or I would
mm-hmm.
say. So starting with number one, the first thing that came to mind, the 14-day backpacking trip that I went on when I was 14 years old.
Ooh, okay.
Uh, that was incredible.
Yeah, you've
So
talked about that a lot to
yeah,
me.
that was defining. That was a Matt Paul defining experience. All
Cool.
that stuff I talked about resiliency. Yeah, a lot of it was tempered on that trip because my God, you know, just going in a boy, coming out a man,
Right? I
like
mean,
very much. Uh, I mean, first day you show up and they weigh your pack.
uh,
My mom was supposed to go with me on this trip, but she was fighting demons, let's just
right,
say.
right.
Um,
We all got the demons.
yeah, and hers were her best friends
Right.
during that time.
Hmm.
And so she pulled out at the not at the last minute, but it was pretty much decided that she could not go. Um, and we couldn't fill that spot, which meant that we had an odd man, and
Hmm.
I was that odd man, which meant whereas normally you would have a partner on the trip who you
Yeah.
tented with, who you split supplies with. I had to carry
Oh,
my whole own tent. Now it was still there were still other things distributed. My pack was, more or less weighed the same as my compatriots. Um, and but like for example, meals only come in meals of two. Like the prepped backpacking meals only
I
came in
see.
meals of two. So I had to carry two people's food the whole time. Now that also meant that I had the cream of the crop, of Everybody gets
Yeah.
one pack of Oreos. Guess who's got 2 packs of
Well, I
Oreos?
think that's fair. If you don't have anyone helping you haul your stuff, I think that's totally fair. You should
Yep.
get double the food.
Yep. But as far as like shared stuff like pots, pans, first aid stuff, a lot of that stuff was split up amongst us. And so but I was more heavily scrutinized for personal items.
Right.
Like if there was anything I needed to shed off to get my pack under because your pack couldn't be more than I think like 55 pounds.
Hmm.
If it was any more than that, you need to shed some stuff. You don't need to bring the blue jeans. You've got some shorts, like, so on and so forth. But anyway, yeah, no, we packed out. It was, it rained every day in the mountains, the Sangre de Cristo Mountains in New Mexico. Rains every day without fail.
Hmm.
That was brutal. If you've ever seen Forrest Gump,
Hmm.
you know, when he's in
Right.
Vietnam and he's like, one
Kept
day it just
raining.
started raining and it didn't stop. Like that's what it was like. And it was torture. Like that was
Yeah.
torture. And everybody on that trip had like a breaking point that
Hmm.
they met during the trip.
Hmm.
Some people happened on day 2.
Right.
Me, it was like day 7.
Uh-huh.
And it had been raining all day. Like usually the rain would roll in around lunchtime and leave a couple hours later. But this particular day it rolled in and did not stop.
Hmm.
And I remember we had to set up our camp in the rain.
Hmm.
We've been walking in the rain for miles with packs on our back. The leaders, they're right there with us and they have to be strong. So, glad that they were there. But it was tough. And I just remember I didn't even want to eat, but they're like, you have to eat. I didn't want to cook in this
Right.
downpour. And so we're cooking our beef stroganoff, that comes in a little pouch and you just boil water,
Hmm.
put it in your bowl, put the stuff in there, close it, wait 3 minutes, open it up. Um, you can't eat inside your tent
Uh-huh. Right.
because if you spill it, you'll get mauled by a bear in the middle of the
Right.
night.
And that would be unpleasant.
Very unpleasant. And so I just remember how bad it tasted because you're trying to eat it,
Uh-huh.
but atmosphere temperature water is just landing in your slop and you can't stop it. And I
Right.
was pissed.
Hmm.
Like I was at my mental limit as a 14-year-old
Hmm.
and I didn't want to eat it anymore. But you have to eat it all because again, the bears will come. And that is 100% true because we had bears
Yeah.
walk through our campsite looking for food.
Hmm.
Not that night, but on other nights. And there have been bears that entered tents while people were
Yeah.
sleeping in them because
Yeah.
some 14-year-old boy
Terrifying.
thought that they could sneak some Oreos. And so I eat, as much as I can stand. And they have this thing called a sump, which is at campsites, they would have a drain pipe that was about the size of, I don't know, a can, a little bit larger than like a can of soup. And it had a mesh top, and it was where you're supposed to where you brush your teeth and
Hmm.
you spit the water out because you can't have scented toothpaste either. But
Right.
you would still spit down this sump pipe and you would have to rinse the mesh top off with water to make sure all that smell goes way down there. I poured the rest of my beef stroganoff out
Oh,
over that
geez.
thing, and my leader got so mad at me because there were like little bits of noodle and little bits of meat on top of the
Oh
thing.
my God.
And he made me sit there with a rock and like grind all the food particles down through the very tight mesh to
Mm-hmm.
get it to go down and then rinse water over it. And luckily, it was raining, so that helped too. But I was in
Yeah.
tears. I was pissed. I hated everything. I didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
And but the next day, the sun comes up
Mm-hmm.
and it's a little more solemn. And you've now broken.
Right.
And now everything looks a little brighter. And,
Uh-huh.
now I've experienced the worst of it and
And gotten through it.
gotten through it. Now I was still a little pissed,
Right.
but especially at the leader that made me do that because I was like, a bear could fucking eat me right now. I don't give a shit. I'm not eating any more of this. Like, I was at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and but then it got better and it got cool, and I had a great time. The rest of the time, it was still rough. Like I
Right.
will often look back at that as hell on earth, but I did it,
Yeah.
and it's a cool feeling. So that was huge. That I am experientially in love with that trip. The next one
Cool.
was, I said I had three. I'll keep this one a little more brief. Um, but again, relating to Boy Scouts, I believe there are now 4 high adventure camps in
Mm-hmm.
the United States. At the time I was in Boy Scouts, there were only 3. I've been to 2 of them. Philmont was one. That's the backpacking.
Yeah.
Um, the other one is up in Montana, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
canoeing. So instead of
Oh,
backpacking, you're like canoeing for like 50 miles
fun.
down the border of Canada.
Yeah.
Um, that sounded like I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. It's cold up there. It's wet every day. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with that. The other one is like a freaking resort, and it's called Sea Base. And you go to the
Mm-hmm.
Keys in Florida and just dick around basically for a week on an island. That's the
Yeah.
uh, that's the adventure that we chose. They have several things you can do. We did the God, what was the name of the island? Starts with an M. I don't remember. Uh, it'll come to me. But you go out there and you live on an island for. I think we
Mm-hmm.
lived out there for 5 days. We stayed there for 5 nights. You kayak 5 miles out
Nice.
on the open ocean, and you live on this island. You have to. They make you choose your supplies. You can only take this much with you. And they
Uh-huh.
give you this big picnic table of all sorts of stuff on it.
And you can
But
only choose a certain number.
and they're gonna weigh it, and that determines, the limit, so
Mm-hmm.
do you want to take all of this? There's no risk of sharks coming on land.
Right.
So there's no limit to what they had. Spam was a big player. Um,
Ew.
Spam was huge. But you could take other stuff, like s'mores stuff. You could
Mm-hmm.
bring chocolate graham crackers and marshmallows if you wanted to.
Right.
You could choose to bring this tarp if you wanted to. And so that was a cool experience. Getting to pick and choose as a group what we wanted to bring, what we could leave behind, what we could do without, and so on and
Yeah.
so forth. Um, they didn't make us choose how much water to bring. They were like, you'll have the one thing they said was that you will have water.
Yeah.
But if you don't bring enough food, you're going to bed hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how true that was. Um, but that was cool. I didn't put a shirt on for a whole week. That
Mm-hmm.
was rad.
Nice.
I got the meanest tan of my life. Uh, so that was super cool. And we went fishing. It was just a big vacation. So a very different experience from the hell that was Philmont.
Right. You
Um,
went to hell and then you went to heaven.
Heaven, literally. I slept on the beach in a hammock, no tent
Nice.
necessary. And there was a crab that crawled on me one night. That was uncomfortable because the hermit crabs there were huge. But yeah, so I love those experiences, and the sort of duality of
Hmm.
those
Yeah.
two. Because I went back to back years. Like I went to Philmont when I was 14, I went to Sea Base when I was 15. And so yeah, those were super cool. And then the last one happened recently, and
Hmm.
basically it's a little more sentimental just
Hmm.
because of everything that's been happening in my life. But as I said, my dad passed away last year.
Right.
Big sports fan. He got buried with every single uh, Dallas-based sports team merchandise. He's from Maine, so we did include a Boston Red Sox cap as well because that was
Uh-huh.
his home team. But from the time he moved to Texas, he was a Rangers fan, and so I think you know where I'm going with this. But me and my brother went to a bunch of Ranger games
Hmm.
on their playoff run towards the World Series, and
Right.
just like the cathartic experience of just losing my father during the
Hmm.
summer of 23 and then having the Rangers go on this miracle run in October of
Right.
the MLB was just surreal. And getting to be there and knowing that, like, if my dad were still kicking,
Hmm.
he'd be there at those games with us,
Yeah.
getting to see the Rangers go to potentially win their first World Series.
Hmm.
Oh man, that was incredible. It was just incredible, you know.
Nice.
And then the cherry on top is that they actually freaking won the World Series.
Right.
Incredible.
Like I feel like
Incredible.
no one saw that coming. It just
No,
kind of
nobody did.
out of nowhere suddenly. There go the Rangers.
There go the Rangers in their first World Series victory. And I don't know about no afterlife or nothing, but I was like, my dad must have pulled some strings up there and got the Rangers to win. It was incredible. And yeah, I'll never forget that.
Excellent. I love that answer. I love all of that multifaceted answer.
I've had some cool experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean that's what we are. It's like I mean that's kind of where all my questions are coming from. It's like, we're humans. We are the sum total of our experiences. Like if you really want to get to know somebody, ask them that. Ask them about their experiences, ask them about the stories.
I'm gonna use these on a date.
For real, I was literally just thinking that as I was saying that. I'm like, date
Yeah, I'm gonna need
conversation.
you to send me a copy of these.
Right? Just gotta guarantee a deep conversation or sift them out quickly.
Yeah, if you
Like
can't
now
hang
you
them, there's the
can't hack
door.
it. Yeah, pretty much. All right. Where were we? Let's see. So anything else to add on that one?
No, no, I wrapped that one up quite nicely.
I agree. I agree. All right. So this one, I don't know. I don't know how to take this one because it's not as bright and sunshiny, if you could call it bright and sunshiny previously. Tell us about your most devastating failure, what you learned from it, and how it changed you.
Mm, that is deep. And not to toot my own horn, but I don't feel like I have a lot of.
Don't toot your own horn, you'll go blind.
What? What? Where'd you go? No, no, I don't have a lot of devastating failures. Not ones I want to tell the whole world about, I
Hmm.
guess.
That's fair.
Um,
I mean, that's fair. That should be like, I mean, on all of these questions, if you feel like they're too personal or for whatever reason you can't answer them, that's okay.
it's not like they're ever gonna watch these things anyway.
Who? Oh,
The
people
people
you
involved.
okay. I mean, it's your
Because most of
call.
my devastating failures probably have to do with who I was with someone else and
Ah,
who they became
so
and who I became. Relationships.
relationship failures.
Yeah, like
Okay.
because like I could speak generally about this because I
Okay.
think about things generally too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and have watched other people and taken in their experiences. But yeah, most of my biggest failings probably come with just interpersonal relationships,
Mm-hmm.
be them romantic or friendships.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, there was a time where I was dating this girl and we were just both kids.
Right.
And that's how I look at it now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wasn't able to properly express myself, uh, nor she her. And So like, it started off all teen relationships do, where
Mm-hmm.
it's things start happening really fast,
Yeah.
feelings happen fast and they happen hard,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is, in this moment and it will never top this, and
Right.
everything so bright and shiny and new,
Mm-hmm.
and every dip in the road rocks the whole boat, and and a small interaction can seem like the end of the world, or like heaven on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so like being young and then like going through where like a long-term relationship
Mm-hmm.
where inevitably you know parts of people change
Yes.
and parts of people stay the same,
Mm-hmm.
um which is both good and bad in the sense that like you can pick up bad habits, you can change by picking up bad habits,
Mm-hmm.
um and you can stay the same by solidifying bad habits.
Right.
Like so stuff you brought in that was cute when the relationship was getting started could become
Toxic.
awful. Yeah,
Yeah.
toxic and awful. Um, like examples being like jealousy. You can
Right.
bring
Oh
jealousy into
yeah.
a relationship, especially when you're young,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you can spiral it and just grow it, and it gets terrible. Um, Whereas another thing that can change is you become complacent.
Mm-hmm.
You can
True.
fall into complacency where I've got the girl. We've
Right.
been dating and going steady for a year and a half now. We're practically married, and
Right.
so you can become complacent. You don't try as hard to keep things fresh and new and exciting,
Mm-hmm.
and you can just fall into this is how it is and how it always will be. I've done what I set out to do, and I don't need to do anything else. And
Yeah.
so just those sorts of like learning curve things, to where
Mm-hmm.
when it all finally comes crashing down or comes to a head or comes to a point, yeah, that changed me and sort of broke down, like forced me to face myself.
Yeah.
And because I still loved this girl,
Mm-hmm.
and it forced me to look at her more objectively and look at myself more objectively, and then decide how this needs to how I'm going to navigate this relationship. And it ended up culminating in us going our separate ways. um
Mm-hmm.
but through that experience I was able to find more love for myself
Mm-hmm.
and probably more love for her
Yeah.
than I could have ever done if we had stayed in a sort of just a revolving door of complacency, jealousy, and let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that I mean that experience has forced me to has like spawned very what I would consider good habits in myself, where I
Mm-hmm.
whenever I feel a negative emotion, I check it rather than like bottle it,
Mm-hmm.
or fan the flames. I sort of try to I mean I don't think that those feelings are feelings. If you feel
Yeah.
a certain way, if there's a way for you to you know feel it and let it go,
Mm-hmm.
that's the best case
Yeah.
scenario.
Listen to it. You know, your
Yeah.
feelings are not wrong. Your actions, it's you can't have a wrong feeling because you can't choose your feelings, But I
No,
see
you
what you're
can guide
saying.
them
Right. Yeah. It's
with
like
with
you listen
practice.
to them and you work through them. You don't have
Yeah.
to just hold on to them because often they're irrational. Feelings are all irrational,
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, no, I like all that. I like all that you're saying there. Preach
Yeah, so
more.
I mean that you know so I guess one of the reasons I hesitated too, because like the way I'm talking about it, I can't really call it a failure either.
Uh-huh.
Like, it was a failing, but I eventually made the light bulb.
Well,
You
see,
know,
but that was part of the question is how did it
right.
change you? I mean,
Hmm.
and there's this line like, we always go to Star Wars, but this line in The Last Jedi that Yoda says, the greatest teacher failure is. Like
Yeah,
I so believe that to be true. Like that's so right on with my philosophy on life. Like if you can fail, but it's good, it's healthy if you fail forward,
yes,
like, and I think, in the situation of a romantic relationship, like I was thinking about it recently, like how all breakups are healthy. They're
right,
all net if you are breaking up with someone, even if it hurts you, if it needs to happen because it's not working, it's
right.
lancing a boil. It's staying together that becomes the poison.
That's a fun generalization because I could flip that because there
Hmm.
are toxic breakups,
Well,
as
yeah,
in,
there are toxic breakups, but they need to happen. It's
right.
like the breakup needs to happen, and once you're past it, that's healthy.
Yeah,
I
my
guess is
my
what I'm
I
saying.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, because my main thought would go to people that get a kick out of getting back together
Oh, yeah, and that's
to where they're not really breaking up, and pretty much everybody in their social circle probably knows that,
and just rolls their eyes.
yeah, oh, they're breaking up again.
Uh,
Like they're not
because
talking
they
to each
they don't know
other.
how else to like handle
Yeah,
problems. Is oh, we
yeah,
disagree, let's break up. Yeah, that's just that's immaturity. That's people who aren't failing forward.
yeah,
Like,
sociopaths.
right, I guess, I don't know.
But yeah, no, I mean, failing being the best teacher. That's why it's hard for me to, I mean, I guess I would consider that to be my greatest failure because it changed me the most. That's sort of how I
Uh-huh.
chose to look at the question is
Yeah.
which, not so much measuring the magnitude of failure, but measuring the
Yes.
magnitude of growth
Impact.
that
Yeah.
that came from it. Because I mean, the only other thing I can really come up with that was like a huge F up was,
Mhm.
I guess, you know, it was all teenage stupidity.
Right.
I've been a
We learn a lot
pretty
from teenage stupidity.
I,
That's why
I've
we
been a
have
pretty
that.
responsible adult. Um,
Mhm.
I've made a lot of goodness. Like I learned from my mistakes in my teen years.
Mhm.
I did not necessarily I didn't bring a lot of that into my adult life.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, what did I do in high school? I mean, I smoked weed at church camp.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
that was fun.
I remember
Uh,
that.
Great
That's
story. Um, you know, that's gotten a good laugh out of so many people.
right. Well, because looking back on it, yeah, it's funny.
It's
And
hilarious. And then, I got caught smoking weed in an abandoned house. That was just stupid.
yeah.
Um, you know, buddy there was a vacant house across the street from his, and we just decided this was a great hideout. Kids love freaking hideouts. And,
Uh-huh.
being 16, you're not much different from a 14 or a 12-year-old. You just
Right. You
have
can
a car
drive.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have access to a much larger social network who can
Hmm.
get you drugs,
Yeah.
um, whether or not you consider marijuana a drug.
Hmm.
But yeah, we found this cool hideout, and there was an unlocked window, and you could just crawl right in. And it was this big, not big, it was a 3-bed, 2-bath Garland home. And we
Yeah.
just climbed right inside and just chilled in there one night, had a little music speaker. We're just playing music and passing around a pipe, and it was a good time. And then we had this great idea to do that in broad daylight,
Hmm.
and we got caught by the cops. And I didn't get a ticket because they were just like,
Yeah.
"You are some dumb kids. Don't do that." And and then again in high school, I let somebody borrow my keys to my car to go
Hmm.
jumpstart their car while I was making up a test I had been absent for,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, girlfriend, you have seen me start my stick shift car 150 times.
Oh
Um,
no, a
you can
stick
go,
shift.
yeah, I was like, you can
Uh,
go, start it up. And I was like, yeah, it's easy. All you do is push in the clutch and turn the key. And, good to go. And then you can jump Cameron, jump his car off. And so she's like, okay, yeah. And then I walk out and see my car broken in half
Jeez.
underneath the tow hitch of a I had a little sedan, and
Yeah.
just broken in half underneath the tow hitch of a Chevy Suburban who had a scratch on it, but the entire front half of my car was snapped off
Oh,
at the
jeez.
frame. And yeah, I effed that up. Um, I should not have done that because my car was broken in a particular fashion in
Mm.
terms of the only way to keep it from rolling away was to leave it in gear,
Oh.
and it had no parking brake
Mm-hmm.
functionality. um and I know a lot of veteran stick shift drivers leave it in gear with the parking brake. You're supposed to. I
Yeah.
still drive stick shift and I still don't. Um, and it's primarily because I don't have that habit. And anytime
Right.
I've been like, I should do this, I get back in my car and nearly jump into the Starbucks because I forget that I'm trying to form that habit. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's what ended up happening is my girlfriend actually was like, I don't really know how to start this. Do any of y'all know how? And then Ruth, the girlfriend of Cameron, whose car needed jump starting, was like, oh, I drive a stick shift. I drive my dad's every now and then. I know how to do it. And she did. What she didn't know that it wasn't didn't have a parking brake and was in first gear. And so as soon as she
Uh-huh.
let out of the clutch, it jumped forward and broke. And
Ouch.
Ruth was in tears
No doubt.
because she just broke a random person's car, totaled
Uh-huh.
it. Um, and
Oh, that's a cringy story. I
it's
like it
very
though.
it's
It's a
and guess
good one
what?
though.
And guess what? I've never given the keys of my car to somebody other than my father
Yeah.
since then, because I'm just like, I'm going to spare both me and you the devastation of having wrecked somebody else's car, because I couldn't imagine doing that to somebody
Oh
else,
yeah.
and then me the devastation of now not having said car.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was rough. And a failure that I grew from. Yeah, just being a teenager in general was just a huge failure. And
Right.
I grew immensely
Mm-hmm.
um
It's
from 19 to 20.
oh
And
yeah.
from the time I turned 12 to the time I turned 20 was just a huge learning experience.
As it should be. Like, yeah. I mean, you look back on things like that and you cringe, but everybody was an adolescent at some point, and it
Oh, good
is
Lord, my
just
fashion sense when I was 12, 13, and 14.
I have pictures.
Yeah, don't, yeah, I those pictures are rough, man.
Right? I mean, that's your greatest failure, just fashion.
Yeah, no. My siblings are lucky. They had older siblings to be like, this is what's in right now.
Yeah. Oh
But
well. All right. Let's move on from that one then.
yep,
Stop talking about
well
failures and
concluded.
start to this one's simple. Talk about the moment you came closest to dying.
Um, let's
You're
see.
shaking your head.
Well, I've almost died a number of times, admittedly.
Same.
Man, there was the time that I did drown in a pool. I was
Would you
resuscitated.
I didn't know that story.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
it was at the Eagles Club, and uh, I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think my young mind couldn't, like, I don't remember exactly. I think it was a cramp.
Uh-huh.
I had never experienced a cramp
Right.
before. while in the midst of physical activity. Um, and it was late and I was swimming because we used to have the hookup over there where we'd
Yeah.
stay after hours and just be swimming in the pool. And I think I was doing laps and I was like six or
Right.
seven. And I was raised in the water. I'm at home in the water.
Uh-huh.
So
Aquaman.
I was basically awkward kid, and um so I was swimming and I just remember my leg don't work no mo. And
Hmm.
then I started sinking and I splashed around a little bit, but I was like in disbelief, like, no, this isn't happening to me. I need to start kicking. And I was like, legs ain't working and I'm just sinking. And
Uh-huh.
luckily, one of the drunk adults was not drunk enough to still notice me,
Yeah.
not kicking anymore. And that would be Sarah's mother,
Right.
uh, jumped in and pulled me out. And I say I was resuscitated. Um, yeah, I think she just slapped me on the back and I came to.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't think I had any mouth to mouth or nothing. I just remember it was
Right.
pretty scary, and then I jumped right back in the pool,
Yeah.
but stayed at the deep end. But yeah, so there was
Yeah.
that time. There was the time that me and my brother climbed up a sheer cliffside.
Hmm.
This is really he was closer to dying than I was because I literally saved his life.
Yeah.
Um, as we were in a cape in in Maine,
Hmm.
and I was like 9, I think. It was fourth grade, so like 9 or 10. So my brother was like 5 or 6,
Right.
and we were yeah, there it was probably it's probably smaller than it was in actuality, but I would say based on my best estimation, it was probably a good 150 feet.
Yeah.
Like, a literal like you had to walk down like what felt like a million stairs to get down to the beach because it was a cove surrounded by
Hmm.
sheer cliff faces.
Yeah.
And being a young boy, I'm gonna climb that cliff,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna get to the top of it too. And me and my brother being a tyke,
Yeah.
and he wants to do what Big Brother's doing, so I'm like, well, let's go. And so we make it about I want to say like a third of the way up this thing,
Yeah.
and my brother like probably several times almost like lost his grip and I just caught him, dragged him onto the outcropping that we were resting on as we're making our epic journey up the side of the cliff.
Hmm.
And the moment that was like, oh shit for me was not my brother nearly falling to his death several times, was when I saw my dad sprinting down the beach head when he saw us up there. And I'm all like, Dad, look how awesome I am. Look how cool this is. But then
Your dad's having a heart attack.
I could hear the F bombs make their way
Yeah.
up to to my my ears, and I was like, oh. And then like reality set in
Uh-oh.
about
Yeah.
like what I'm doing right now. And I've got my little brother here with me who's got hands the size of raccoon hands, and
Right.
and about the strength of two raccoons, possibly. I don't know the
Yeah.
strength of raccoons.
Yeah, but
Um,
it's probably not that great, you know.
yeah, and so I'm like, oh, now we have to go down.
Hmm.
And so yeah, that was pretty reckless and probably could have been a news story there. I've
Right.
almost been abducted by
Mm.
like pedophiles, I guess,
Mm.
child traffickers, twice now, I
Yeah.
think.
Twice.
Yeah.
Happened to me once.
Yeah, both times like I didn't process what was happening, but I had other shit to do than go with these weirdos. Um no. Like I think one time I was playing with a balsa wood airplane
Mm.
and I was like, no, I gotta go finish tweaking its wings and stuff. I can't go with y'all, and ran off. And the other time was they were trying to show me a cool fireworks spot. And
Uh,
I was like, if anybody knows the coolest fireworks spot here, it's gonna be my family. So you guys are wrong.
right.
And no,
Lucky.
thank you. And so yeah, um, I was just like, I could tell that these people were weird, but yeah,
Mm,
so could have died there. Um, in my adult life, I don't lead a very exciting life, I guess.
mm.
So I guess most of the time it would be, somebody almost kills me on the road.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is like an
as with
everyday occurrence we
everybody.
take for
Yeah.
granted. Like we come near death almost, like I do almost every day.
It's a social contract.
Yeah.
I get to drive and go to work to pay my bills, and I
Hmm.
possibly might die out there every day.
Right.
It's just a
Every
small,
day.
small thing we all accept.
But yeah, man, that cliff one, that freaks me out.
Dude, I remember
That
just it
I
still gives
can't,
me chills thinking about the reality of it setting in.
yeah, just
Like
how close you came.
you won't catch me. Like I did some other shit in my
Uh-huh.
in my teens, like cliff diving, like going to a lake and like climbing
Hmm.
up. Like there's a pathway, but you jump off a cliff face into the water below. Yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm
Yeah.
watching people do it, and I'm like, that's cool. I can think
Hmm.
of, I guess I just have such a what do you call it? Like I'm very disaster minded now as an
Uh-huh.
adult. Like I could not imagine having kids. Like just the thought of having kids and the shit they get up to that I got up
Right.
to
Yeah, no, exactly.
gets me all like into a tizzy right now. Like I'm just like, do not climb up the cliff,
Hmm.
little
Yeah,
child.
don't let
Uh,
your eyes off of kids. Boys, don't let your eyes off of little boys.
yeah, no,
If you're
and
out in the wild, they
they will
will go
do
try
dumb
to put
shit.
their finger in a bear's nose. They're going to do that stuff if
Dude,
you
oh,
don't.
oh yeah, no, I recognize the danger in everything now, and I
Uh-huh.
can't stop thinking about it. Like Galveston trips.
Oh yeah.
I took Courtney out to Galveston for the second time this last year. She had been out there before, but was a little more. We were on my parents' schedule,
Hmm.
and so it was a lot less fun uh, being out there on our own time where we can do whatever we want. Um, I wish she'd fear the ocean a little more
No, yeah, I know people like that. I'm just
as
like,
a
what? You know what's in there, right?
as a
You
five
know.
foot two girl
Hmm.
who isn't the best swimmer in the
Right.
world.
Riptides.
Please stop going. You do not need to go above your head in the ocean
Mm-mm.
unless you're snorkeling
Right, but
with
not
a
in
group.
Galveston,
Not
where
in
you
Galveston.
cannot see what's
You
in the
cannot
water.
see.
You can't see
That sand is brown.
anything. Yeah, that is some
There is sand in the water, and you
dirty
cannot
water.
see.
Yeah.
And you know, please stop going above your head. Please stop trying to go out further.
It's not a swimming pool.
It's not a swimming
It's
pool.
a jungle. It's
There
a
are
jungle.
sharks.
And
I
other
don't
things. There are
jellies.
all manner of things that will kill you just to figure out what you are.
Yeah, the thing I'm most concerned about is tigers, tiger
Oh
sharks.
yeah.
They live in that water.
Hmm.
And I'm like, they are also known as the garbage cans of the ocean because they eat everything. Tiger sharks eat everything.
Yeah.
And they're the second most common shark to attack you,
Right.
behind the great white. And
Hmm.
yeah, do not want to have to deal with that. And so I'm just like, please come in a little further.
Yeah.
I will, but I really don't want to have to fight a shark off of you. Like if it comes down to it, yes, I will come and get you, and I will, lay down my life to get you out of that shark's jaws and get you back
Right.
to shore. But I'd like to avoid that, please.
Hmm.
And so yeah, having kids who are just like, see that oil tanker? I'm gonna go touch it.
Right.
And it's like
Yeah.
3 miles out
Hmm.
offshore. Because I've definitely done that. Tried to. I turned around,
Right,
but
because when you're a kid, it just seems like the thing to
the world is
do.
my
It's
playground.
like I can do that. That's
Yeah.
cool. You don't think about
consequences.
Yeah, sharks and undertow and all that
No,
stuff.
sharks are cool
Right.
when you're 8,
Yeah,
but
and you're immortal.
yeah,
It's like sharks eat other people. Oh well. Anyway, so yeah, uh share the story of your deepest experience with grief. And this doesn't necessarily mean, like people jump to death. I know you've had that recently, but we grieve other things too. So think about grief just in terms of anything that you have experienced a loss and grief over something. And again, if it's
gotcha.
too personal, say so.
No,
You aren't
that's fine.
required to answer any
What
of
was
these.
the question again?
Share the story of your deepest experience with grief.
Gotcha. So you know better than, or know more than the audience here in
Hmm.
terms of like my journey, I guess.
Right.
Well, that's not a guess. But uh yeah, I mean you mentioned death, and I don't have a problem talking about like my father's passing,
Hmm.
but because that's the only thing I've got.
Okay.
Like as far as like experience with grief, if you recall before that happened, I was wondering how I would react to it
That's
all
true.
because I felt like a very cold person
Hmm.
before my dad passed, and do I now view myself as not so much cold but more so much like rational,
Hmm.
I guess. Not rational, I guess rational, but cool-headed. I mean,
Hmm.
I I have a unique perspective on death from the beginning,
Hmm.
and I can also be considered to be somewhat of a self-centered person,
Hmm.
as in um, I look after myself pretty well, um, and it can appear to be I'm a big proponent of that's the good side, right? If you're a proponent of something,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm a big proponent of like you know not self-indulgence, but just looking after yourself. Selfishness to take care of your self-care. I guess that's what we're calling it
Hmm.
nowadays. Um, so like before my dad passed, I would often struggle with like, would I even care?
Hmm.
Because my world is like pretty, I get along fine with the absence of everyone, basically. Like I
Hmm.
really do enjoy being alone. And so I would often wonder like if person A or person B were to, for whatever reason, exit my life, would I care?
Hmm.
And my dad's passing, you know, I don't know if it changed all of that, but it definitely shook it.
Hmm.
Because I do miss my dad.
Yeah.
He was a cool guy. I wish there was a lot of life left in that man.
Right.
Um, for those in the audience, cancer took him. Cancer's a bitch,
Hmm.
and you know, there was a lot of cool stuff we could have done, like the Rangers games and
Right.
stuff like that, and a
Yeah,
lot of
things like
stuff.
that that make you feel his absence.
Yeah, those things sting a little bit,
Hmm.
but I guess there's a little bit of not regret, but like I do cherish those times where I was upset that I had to like help him.
Hmm.
Like, now like when people are like that, I'm like, you are gonna miss these times when he's gone.
Right.
Like, God, I hated doing decorations. My dad would decorate the hell out of do Christmas. Well, yeah, he'd only do Christmas. But he would do all the lights and the lawn fixtures, and freaking Snoopy on the roof. We had this Santa Snoopy that had to go on the roof every goddamn year. And every year it would fall off the roof at some point because of high
Yeah.
winds and it not being. I mean, I'm the one up there doing it, and I don't want to be up there. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing a very good job of making sure this thing is. What we did is we put bricks inside of it. We would not strap it down, but we put bricks up in this light up plastic, like the hard plastic Snoopy.
Uh-huh.
God, I hated doing that because, like I said, I'm very disaster minded as I got older, and I'm picturing myself getting up on the roof, and our roof was kind of steep. I'd fall off and break every bone in my body and never be able to walk again. That whole thing.
Right, right.
Hated, and then but then I was like, "God, but Dad can't get up there, and
Yeah.
I'm also the kid that used to jump off my roof to see if I could fly, and but yeah, no, I definitely missed him at Christmas, not getting the
Hmm.
call to come get up in the attic and get all the Christmas decorations down and have him berate me for which ones we're looking for. And no, it's that one. I was like, Dad, I'm the one who put these up here last year, got them out that year too. Like I know where things are up in this attic. I'm the one doing it.
Uh-huh.
And but so those little things like I definitely do miss. Um, but as far as like my experience with the grieving process,
Hmm.
it definitely it went about how I imagined it with a little more spice.
Hmm.
Like I am just fine. I am
Hmm.
moving along. I don't think about him every second of every day.
Hmm.
Um, I don't have trouble sleeping at night. Some might say, well, you didn't love him as much as I love person X that I lost.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, maybe love is an irrational thing. I you can't measure it.
Right.
Um, but me personally, I don't I don't have such strong like arguably like I'd probably be more of a wreck if my brother or sister were to suddenly pass away or something.
Hmm.
Um, but then again, I don't know because I would get along. Like I'm confident that I can carry on. And so that sort of confidence like probably armors me during the
Hmm.
grieving stage. Um, it helps with my perspective. I mean, it helps that my dad was an incurable jokester.
Hmm.
And so I can make all the dark humor jokes I want about his
Right.
passing, and he'd be all for it.
Yeah.
And just so I mean, the story of my grief, I mean, it definitely is true that like when I've seen stories since from other people,
Hmm.
like on Reddit and stuff like that, where they'd tell the story of their loved ones passing.
Yeah.
And it's like, one woman was telling the story of like her son passing.
Ooh.
That would probably be the worst.
Yeah.
To lose a kid.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't want to put it, my brain wants to add metrics to it, be like, well, if it was only 1 years old, I probably wouldn't care as much as if it was 12 years old. Like, but I don't want to put that to metrics because
You're
for
like, I
one,
didn't
I'm
know
not a
that kid.
father. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
But you
or a
do, like,
miscarriage. Like,
yeah.
my brain wants to run the numbers basically.
Right. But you
Um,
haven't been in that position.
no. And so, but that would be the worst. But she was talking about it, how like she definitely let out a scream when she was told the news.
Yeah.
I had the
Oh, I know where you're
I
going.
yeah, I was lucky enough to be there when he went, and
Hmm.
so it was real right then.
Yeah.
Um, but to have someone else tell you that would be rough. But um, where she went with her story was similar to how I was,
Yeah.
which was where okay, things are now in motion. I've got to do this. There's so much to do when somebody dies
Yes.
in our society. I'm not saying
Mm.
it's a wrong thing, but like the grieving has to wait.
No, I know.
And because did you have funeral arrangements already prepared? Did you have this prepared? You got to do this, you got to do that, and get everything the way both you and your lost loved one would have wanted it to go,
Mm.
whether it be cremation or burial or
Right.
a service or a memorial and so on and so forth. Like there's so much to happen. And the way she was talking about it was like I didn't shed a single tear after my initial reaction to losing my son.
Mm.
But the moment I got back from the service and my house was empty, she was like, I just
And it hit
collapsed.
her.
It
Yeah.
hit her. And like now it didn't really happen that way for me.
Uh-huh.
And that's not a brag or anything. That's just the way I am. It happened for me like slowly,
Mm-hmm.
where like certain songs would play that remind me of my dad, or
Yeah.
like for me, I am a very vivid and avid dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's rough having such a good idea of my dad to where I can have him in my dreams as he was in his prime, just joking, laughing. We're drinking together, we're laughing together,
Mm-hmm.
and have all of that and then wake up.
Mm.
That's like ripping the band-aid off, but it's also very nice.
Yeah.
Like as long as I don't lose that, I'll be good,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just like, well, I can just see him again. And so my grieving process has been, the story of my grief has been sort of a little perspective altering and reassuring that like I've lost somebody pretty damn close to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna be fine losing pretty much anybody. Um, and that's very dark to say, because
Mm.
everybody wants to feel like they'll sell out their funeral and feel like they'll be missed and grieved.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody's gonna jump into the casket, try to bring me back to life. And everybody wants to feel that way. But like I miss my dad, but it is what it is. Like.
Well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound cold to me. It sounds like you lost somebody close that you didn't have a lot of unresolved issues with. Like, I think when I've seen people go through the most torturous grief processes, it's usually when there are a lot of very big unresolved issues with a person. Like I think that's one of the reasons it's so hard when a child dies
Yes, there's
because
so
you're
much
looking at all
potential.
of the potential. Yeah, and that's killing you too. Like we will never see what they could have become. They never got the chance. It's all those never got the chances, I think, that
Yes.
make grieving really brutal. But when you don't have like just a ton of we never got the chance, I never said, he never told me, like that kind of thing. It's like where when you know where you stand with someone. I think grieving is like what you're describing, when
You're probably right.
so it doesn't sound cold to me. It sounds like grieving a good relationship with someone, and you have a lot of good memories, but you're not tortured by what could have been.
That's true. So yeah, I mean, my grieving process was a very, I guess, a light one. I got what I asked for. I'd never
Hmm.
asked for it, but like before my dad, when we would talk about grief, I couldn't relate.
Yeah.
I've never been close to a family pet
Uh-huh.
to the extent that some of my friends are close to theirs.
Yeah.
And so like, I've had dogs die in my arms and I was just kind of like, goodbye, friend. Like,
Yeah.
I fed you because that was about the extent. Growing up, that
Yeah.
that was just my job, was feeding the dogs. And so
Uh-huh.
yeah, I liked them. They were fun and cool. But I
But they
was
weren't
not
your best
they
friend.
were not my best friends. I had human best friends that I was way
Mm-hmm.
more interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that I didn't have to feed every morning and night. And so yeah, this was my first experience with real grief. And I've tried, funnily enough, I've tried to feel it before.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've tried to like muster up because I was worried about myself a little bit. I was
Right.
like, do I feel things? And so I would like try to imagine horrible scenarios
Uh-huh.
and see if I could come up with something, or try to remember like lost pets,
Mm-hmm.
like lost dogs that had passed away, and try to like shed a tear. And it didn't go very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I've definitely shed tears for my dad. I mean, I shed
Yeah.
tears at Disney movies now, but
Yeah.
my body has evolved. My brain chemistry. Um,
Right.
but I'm definitely not the bawling type. But if I
Yeah.
lost a child, I'd probably let out a animalistic sound,
Mm-hmm.
at first learning
Yeah. Oh, I think so.
a shriek. Because man, I've heard audio files of like coroners calling parents to let them know that their son died on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And I've heard that sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah,
Oh,
that'd probably be me.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
I don't
sure.
even have a kid, and I'm already coming up with all the awful scenarios that could happen.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. That
You're
was
welcome.
profound.
You're welcome, everybody.
Um, so you ready to move on from that one, or did you have more to say on it?
I mean, I guess I could just add on, like, if I could just talk, to myself, it'd be the sort of, you know, you're just never gonna know how you're gonna react to losing
Right.
something you care about.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
but I try not to leave too much on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for one thing, I try not to put too much on the table to begin with, but I don't have a lot to put on the table for one
Mm-hmm.
thing. And but yeah, I mean that's all.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's been a fun ride. That sounds
Right.
like a goodbye, but
Right.
I'm
He's like,
I'm
I'm going to
continuing
die
the
now.
ride. Yeah.
All right. Good, good.
And I do want to
Um,
sell out my funeral in case anybody was wondering. I want everybody to love me, and I want everybody to drink the Kool-Aid when I die.
Jeez.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'll skip your funeral.
Yeah.
I don't
Don't
want to.
drink the
I don't want to
Kool-Aid.
die. I never drink the Kool-Aid. This was something about me. All right. Okay, so let's move on from those darker, I guess, questions. So as a musician, um, what is it that draws you to music, both as a listener and as an outlet for your own expression?
Hmm. Um, as a musician, what draws me to it as a listener and a creator?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I mean, to be completely honest,
Mhm.
the creator side was definitely girls, you know, and I can guarantee you that the story is the exact same for every young guitarist,
Right.
young male guitarist out there, young straight self-identifying male guitarists out there. Um, yeah, they wanted to pick up chicks. Um,
Mhm.
and then that's usually how it starts if your parents didn't just put you onto it because you're gonna learn guitar because your dad knows
Mhm.
guitar. And yeah. um
Right. Well, I
but
mean, unless you're like Mozart or someone like, unless you're just a prodigy and the music is just in you and has to come out,
right,
you
but
know.
most of the time music is a part of their lives from birth. In those situations, they
Hmm.
their father or their mother is involved in some way, shape, or form in the musical arts.
Right. Okay.
Neither my mother nor father play any instruments.
Right.
They're not even good singers. My dad's the worst one. But anyway, you know, but my dad always wanted to play the harmonica. I bought him so many harmonicas over the years, never learned how. Um, but because he always said he wanted to be a guitarist because uh he couldn't play the guitar because he had these damn dancer's hands, as he called them. My dad had really stubby fingers as opposed to long, lanky fingers.
Uh-huh.
And so he called them dancer's hands. And but so I mean, yeah, picking up chicks is what drew me to the guitar.
Hmm.
Um, my parents were into blues and classic rock growing up, so guitar
Hmm.
being at the forefront of a lot of those compositions,
Yeah.
especially in the blues.
Hmm.
Um, Stevie Ray Vaughan was my dad's idol as far
Hmm.
as what he considered to be the peak of guitar playing. So he thought it'd be pretty cool to have a son that could do that. I still can't do that. I still can't do what Stevie did. Not many can. Um, so it sort of shifted. Like, turns out I didn't need guitar to get girls.
Right.
So I kind of stopped practicing for a good while. Turns out learning guitar is really hard too.
Hmm.
Um, so when I didn't pick it up and become a rock god instantly, I was, like I've said at the beginning of this thing, I try a lot of stuff,
Hmm.
and guitar started off as one of those things that I just tried.
Right.
Um, I was also very discouraged when I started because I was a timid kid, which is why I wanted guitar to make me
Hmm.
look cool. So girls would talk to me
Hmm.
um, instead of me having to have a personality. Um,
Right.
so I don't know if I put that much thought into it then, but that's how I would diagnose that now.
Hmm.
And but being the timid kid that I was, I had a guitar teacher. I didn't want to tell him what I actually liked listening to as a kid. I grew up on classic rock and the blues and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's what we were sort of learning. But I was afraid to tell him that I was listening to, Bullet for My Valentine, and
Hmm.
I wanted to learn that song. I wanted to learn the
Yeah.
modern metal songs I wanted to learn A Day to Remember. I wanted to
Hmm.
learn August Burns Red and, drop tune these guitars down to what the kids are playing nowadays. I wanted to learn all of that. So I was too timid to admit that to old Jason Buckland.
Hmm.
Uh cool guy. He would have been down,
Hmm.
you know, but I couldn't do it. And so guitar lessons became a bore to me. And I put it
Right.
down for a good while. But uh so what drew me to it initially, like, was girls, and then uh it became studious. Like, I wanted to get good.
Hmm.
And I took guitar at Garland High School, and then it became competitive because
Hmm.
I'm in a classroom with people that have never played guitar, and all of a sudden
Hmm.
I'm the good one,
Hmm.
and so I had to maintain my spot on top.
Right.
I couldn't let these kids who just started get better than me,
Yeah.
who has technically been playing for like 2 years at that point.
Hmm.
I started taking lessons around the time I was 13, and started playing guitar at Garland High School when I was 14, turning 15. So I think I was like 12 when I started playing guitar. But yeah, so it became a competition. That competition got fierce.
Mm-hmm.
Um, by the time I was in year three was when I sort of learned my place in the world
Mm-hmm.
because students come and go. Some people were just taking guitar one as an elective, but by the time I got to guitar three, these are the people that were serious.
Yeah.
And uh, like I said, I didn't need guitar to get girls. So my practice time went way down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as I familiarized myself with romance,
Mm-hmm.
and some of those guys needed guitar to get
Yeah.
girls, so they were practicing a shit ton,
Mm-hmm.
and I was not. So I started to fall behind, but uh, I was interested. Around that time is when I got my first band. Right when I graduated high school, one of my guitar classmates got me into a band as the bassist,
Mm-hmm.
and bassists hate it when guitarists say it, but bass is just easy guitar, and it's definitely not. Uh, if I were serious about it, but if you can play guitar, you can, mediocrely play bass.
Mm-hmm.
And I eventually became the vocalist for that, and that's when I found what I view to be my main draw to music now, which
Mm-hmm.
is lyricism. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was an angsty teen. I had a lot to say about the
Mm-hmm.
government and society and
Right.
all sorts of stuff like that. So that was a good time for me to, because I eventually became the vocalist of that band, and it was my job because I was writing the lyrics to the songs. We were a four-piece metal band, two guitarists, a bassist, and a drummer, no vocalists for a very, very long time. And we're writing what I thought at the time was cool music, but we didn't have a singer and nobody to do lyrics or anything. And so eventually I wrote lyrics, and I could hear somebody
Mm-hmm.
doing the vocals to my lyrics.
Yeah.
And eventually that somebody became me. Because at
Mm-hmm.
first, like, we were getting a vocalist. I was like, here, I wrote the lyrics. If you want to use these. And then eventually that vocalist didn't stick around, and they were like, well, why don't you just do the vocals? I was like, oh Jesus, all right. Well, I'm shy as fuck. So let me try to do this. But yeah, no, so I mean, writing lyrics, I think it's challenging.
Uh-huh.
I like listening to a groove, and like for me, I usually like the way it always worked for me was I had to have music to put lyrics to. I'm not the
Mm-hmm.
type of person that really keeps too many notes
Mm-hmm.
around. I have done it where like I'll write quote unquote a song, just write some stanzas
Mm-hmm.
and sort of what do you call that? Free verse.
Mm-hmm.
And but most of the times those things don't ever see the light of day in terms of getting put to a song, especially
Right.
nowadays. But so it's not as much fun. But I guess it's sort of what draws me to it is I guess just the challenge, and I'm good at it. Like I think I'm pretty good at it, and I want to get better at it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as far as like a listener, uh, I listen to some strange music by some people's standards. Um, Nothing that's mainstream popular
Mm-hmm.
really, and besides Creed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't really listen to Creed. But I listen to a lot of for general's sakes, just metal music.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Lots of screaming vocals and stuff like that. My tastes have shifted as everybody's do over time to
Yeah.
I like a lot of pronunciation in my screams. I like to be able to understand
Right. It makes a
what the person
difference
is
if you
saying.
know what they're saying in a song.
Yeah, yeah. And like don't get me wrong, they could be unintelligible screams, but as soon as I read the lyrics, I'm like, oh, I hear it
Hmm.
perfectly now. I can't understand regular pop singers.
Right. No, I used to always look up lyrics to songs I liked, and then I understood it better because you can't understand a
No,
lot of what people are saying in
the flow
any.
is weird. I'm not a very good auditory listener.
Hmm.
Like, yeah. But I like you once asked me, what do you like about this
Hmm.
when I was listening to it? And the best way, I love the energy.
Hmm.
I love the pace, like the energy, how it hits hard from the start.
Uh-huh.
And, I like that. And I do get into moods where I like softer stuff.
Yeah.
Most of the time by those very same artists who are just doing softer songs.
Hmm.
Somebody once said the best soft songs are written by the people who write the heaviest songs. And I don't know how true that is, but
It
you
is
know,
striking though. I mean, I can think of a lot of instances where people step out of their normal form
yeah, I wish
and they're
soft
really
artists
good.
would step into a harder role sometimes.
Hmm.
Like, could you imagine if John Mayer did like some metalcore or
That,
something? It
you
would be
know, it
incredible.
would probably be great. Yeah.
It would be incredible. And so, like, yeah, when Sleep Token breaks it down,
Hmm.
it's kind of awesome when they go into a soft mode. And every one of their songs is just a roller coaster.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so what sort of draws me to it? I like theme. It used to just be, as an angsty kid, it used to just be how much will this piss off everybody around me?
Hmm.
So I would listen to unintelligible, guttural animal noise, and just because it made me look unapproachable
Uh-huh.
and cool. But now I do like lyricism and theme and
Hmm.
what are they trying to convey if it's not already direct enough. Some things are like, I want to fucking kill myself, and it's like, oh, I think he wants to kill himself and he's hanging
Hmm.
around. But some things aren't as on the nose as that, and I like it whenever it's sort of left up for interpretation,
Hmm.
or what are they really trying to say. And so I enjoy the a little bit of puzzle. I don't like it when people get too pretentious with their metaphors
Hmm.
and expect me to understand what the hell you're talking about, um, without a lot of study. Oh, you got to know the background of the War of 1912, and just well, yeah, uh, not too much into that, but yeah. So that's what draws me to it. Just I like the energy. The vain part of me does like the popularity of you know being a musician.
Hmm.
um, from the creator side of it. The vain part of me likes that. I do like the expression, and then as far as listening, yeah, I'm a big fan of uh, basically looking at other people's art.
Yeah.
It improves your own.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm reading Blue Period right now. Oh, this next week, or next
Hmm.
episode. But there's a character, Hashida, I believe is
Uh-huh.
his name, and he has like an art fetish,
Hmm.
and basically he gets very turned on looking at other people's art.
Hmm.
He's not the best artist himself, but man, does he love looking and examining other people's art.
Hmm.
And I mean, I get that way with people's music.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
there's your answer.
That's a good one. That's a good answer.
Thank you.
So
A
this will
little
be,
long winded.
but that's fine. I mean, we're long-winded. We're loquacious fellows, so it's to be expected. All right, so this will be the last, I guess, dig into your soul kind of it's not really your soul, but tell us a story about one of your ancestors that stands out to you. And how do you see this story reflected in your own life and or character? Story about one of your ancestors.
That is a deep question. So a story about one of my ancestors that I see in my own life
Pretty much. It's
right now.
standout story, and how is it reflected in yourself?
Um, this is not going to be a very grand tale.
That's fine.
Simply because I don't have a lot of knowledge of my ancestry.
Hmm.
I um I have basically zero.
Well, your parents count as your ancestors
That's
too.
the only they're the only
Um,
ones. I don't know my grandmother's middle name. I don't know where
mhm.
she was born. Uh,
Yeah,
I only have one living grandparent
right.
currently, my mother's mother.
Hmm.
Um, we Pauls are dying breed.
Right.
uh, as a matter of fact, we are the last ones, me, my brother, and my sister,
Hmm.
aside from my mother and then my father's sister, who is single and
Hmm.
has no kids and is living that life.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I don't see a lot of my I don't really have a lot of good stories for my dad.
Hmm.
And my mom's story is kind of a one-track story.
Right.
If anything, I've just learned from their mistakes.
Hmm.
And like they've told me a, a lot about their mistakes.
Yeah.
And but times are so different now after the technological revolution that the internet brought, that like
Hmm.
what they experienced, I don't even know how to relate it to
Right.
what I've experienced. Like their schooling experience was leagues
Very,
different from
yeah.
mine.
Hmm.
Their college experience was different from mine. Um, their adolescence was, they both moved to Texas.
Hmm.
Um, I I love where I live. I don't think I'm ever gonna
Yeah.
leave. And so like I have no desire to move across the state.
Hmm.
But I hate the cold.
Right.
What am I I'm as warm as it gets. If I go up north even a half mile, it's cold.
Hmm.
And I don't want to do that. And I don't want to live in Florida.
No,
I
no,
don't want to
no,
live
no.
in anywhere in the deep south. I'm not living in Georgia,
Oh
Florida,
no.
Mississippi, Alabama.
Yeah, none of those states appeal to me either.
I'm not doing any of that. Um, and so yeah, I kind of like where I live, so I'm not going to do what they did and just
Hmm.
screw off to some other state, running away from problems.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know how to answer this one.
That's
Let me
fair.
try. Let me try. Maybe I could uh initiate a seance and
Could
channel
do. Could
one of
do.
my Native American
Well, that could be
uh
interesting.
ancestors to take one look at the color of my skin and get pissed. Um, who did it? Who did it? Which one of y'all contaminated the bloodline with white devils? Uh, that would be my grandmother.
Hmm. We'll
She
see. There's a story.
fell in
That
love with
sounds.
a white man.
Uh-huh.
That's yeah. I mean, she had a twin, um, and
Oh,
she's
look at you
got
telling stories about your ancestors. All right, let's
dude.
hear it.
That's the extent. I have a bunch of cousins,
Uh-huh.
who I don't know very well because I
Hmm.
always relied on my dad to be like, now who's that? Who's
Hmm.
that? It's not even his family.
Yeah.
He got dragged into it, and they all like him better than they like my mom. Um, but
So your grandma had a twin.
she had a twin. My grandmother's name is Marlene. Twin's name, Charlene. And
Nice.
I remember going to Charlene's house. I remember it smelled like old people, but the carpet was long, and so I liked running on it.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so she had some kids. So I've got some cousins.
Hmm.
Her kids had kids,
Yeah.
and I got more cousins because of that. But I don't know who the hell they all are and how they're related to me.
Right.
Um, and Yeah, I don't know who that'd be my great aunt, my grandma's sister.
Yeah.
I don't know who the progenitor is of that line. I don't know who the
Okay.
patriarch is. I don't know if I ever met him or anything. But yeah, so I mean, I've just never been that interested for one because I have always been jealous of families that like were local. But
Uh-huh.
we're from Texas. We are the Texas
Mm-hmm.
Halls. The rest of my family's in Maine. Some of my family was in California. Most
Mm-hmm.
of them moved to Oklahoma or have always lived in Oklahoma on a
Yeah.
reservation, and then so on and so forth as you go further back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know that my great grandpa, the the main patriarch of that I remember, we always used to do a family photo with him
Mm-hmm.
every year because the grandkids, they just start multiplying, uh,
Right.
and great grandkids. And I know that he was I know he was an army veteran,
Mm-hmm.
and he fought in, I think it was World War II.
Mm.
Great grandpa, I think he fought in World War II in a full Native American division or
Hmm.
platoon.
Interesting.
Because I know that at his funeral, um, it was a crazy sight because some of his squad mates who were still alive showed up in U.S. uniform,
Mm-hmm.
but with ceremonial headdresses and
Hmm.
stuff like that. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, Wish I would have known him better. Like, tell me stories. And so I just wasn't that interested. I mean, I had a Nintendo 64, you know,
Right.
it was way cooler than Grandpa. And so, yeah, I didn't take much interest in my extended family because I only saw them once a year and I was always the weird kid every time I showed up. So nobody talked to me
Mm.
except for old people. I'm like, who the hell are y'all? And, you know, uh, so I mean, that's the best I can answer. Um, I got a lot of cool stories from my dad. I mean, not really. He went to jail once.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that was cool. I guess, yeah, that would be the coolest story, honestly.
All right. So let's have it.
Not to make a long story longer, as I speak for the coolest story from my ancestors. So my dad went to jail
Yeah.
um, for selling a bunch of weed
Mm-hmm.
back in the 90s, as you will do back in the 90s.
Right.
Um, Prison wasn't that bad back then, especially for a white man. It's unfortunate the world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
But he lived in what was called the camps. And, I'm very lucky to have gotten the story from him a year
Mm-hmm.
before he
Oh
passed.
yeah.
Because where my dad went for a long time when I was a very young lad, before my brother, before when it was just me and my mom, that's all I remember. Visiting my dad sometimes at school is what I was told and led to believe into my adult life.
I thought you went to go see your dad at school.
I mean, I caught on in my early teens that
Mm-hmm.
something ain't right here.
Yeah.
Something ain't adding up. Dad, I thought you went to UT Austin. No, he did not. Where were you? But yeah, anyway, he finally just spilled the beans
Mm-hmm.
like a year before his death. And I'm so grateful for that because I'm not getting that story out of my mom. Her brain's
Right.
pretty scrambled at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he's telling my favorite stories are like, so I was born, and then he got like, my mom was pregnant with me when he got taken away. He got sentenced to 4 years. I don't think he served the whole 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got let out on good behavior, but he was in the camps and it was basically a dorm rather than prison,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty lax. And I he told me a story about how I would show up to go visit him, and he could see me in the visitor center walking up with my mom, and I saw him see me, and like held up my hand, and I was like stoked for
Mm-hmm.
something. And I had something in my hand, and I was super happy about it. And he could see how excited I was. And he was like, I was wondering, what could it be that's got little Matthew all riled up? And I
Mm-hmm.
get in there, ketchup packet. Like I'm like 2.5 years old, 3 years old, and I could not believe that they have this stuff in packets. It's
Right.
incredible, right? And I, you know, just getting to sit there and have a beer with my dad and talk about that, incredible. But the best story from his time in prison relating to me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a good few stories from prison that he did not tell me that don't
Right.
relate to me. But when I was, before I was conscious, even,
Mm-hmm.
because I do have flashing memories of going to visit my dad, but I cannot tell you about the ketchup packet story from
Yeah.
my own memory. Um, One day my dad was like, he was going to work. He worked in like the laundry facility, and
Mm-hmm.
to earn a little bit of money. And he was there, and one of his buddies there, also named Bob,
Mm-hmm.
they called him Bobby. And he's like, Bob, what's wrong? You look down, and he had just gotten off the phone with my mom, and she was in tears, talking about how this was like a couple months after he got sent there.
Mm-hmm.
No, a year plus a couple months. I'm now 1 years old, and no, it was a couple months because I wasn't because it was my first Christmas. That was the big deal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like a month old, and my mom's upset because Matthew's not going to get anything for his first Christmas.
Yeah.
And my dad, in his mind, is like, he's a month old.
Right.
He doesn't need anything for Christmas besides diapers and a father. Um, but I
Right.
can only get him one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bobby, in the working in the laundry thing, he was a handyman before he got locked up for whatever reason. And he's like, "Don't worry, Bob. We'll get your son a toy, and we'll get your son something. He's gonna have a Christmas present." And so
Mm-hmm.
they got their other guys that were on shift in on it, and they had a woodworking project
Mm-hmm.
that they were all cycling and working on for my dad with his help, where they would hide it, and then the next person to come on to shift would work on it. There was a lot of downtime in the laundry facility, and not a lot of guards either, or not a lot of supervision. And yeah, they made me this like little pull along toy. It was like a dog with wheels, and its like legs were attached to like uh I don't know what you call those, axles on the wheels to where the dog would walk
Mm-hmm.
as you dragged it
Oh,
along. And I still have that thing.
that's
It's
awesome.
still at my house, and I remember that toy very fondly
Mm-hmm.
from when I was actually old enough to, they eventually made the pass off. It was completed and was got through contraband at the visitor center to my mom. And I was like, that's where that thing came from. That thing was built by prisoners,
That is an awesome story.
and I never knew. I never knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that thing will be cool to have for my entire life.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great story.
Story of my ancestor.
And a good one. See, you didn't think you
Thank you.
had anything. You didn't think you
Thank
could
you.
answer that question. You did fine. All right. Okay, now this question is pretty hard. Do you like chocolate?
Okay. I do. I'm a not as much as when I was a kid,
Uh-huh.
as most. I've lost the majority of my sweet tooth
Yeah.
as I've gotten older. Um, I'm a big fan of dark chocolate nowadays. Like if it's
Hmm.
gonna be chocolate, it's gotta be that 99% cacao dark chocolate. And I'm not a chewer. I'm not a
Hmm.
chewer of the chocolate. I'm a I'm a savorer.
You
So
suck, is
I
what you're
I
saying.
didn't
You
want to say it
suck.
like that. No,
You
but
suck chocolate.
I do not suck chocolate, but I let it melt on my tongue. I don't sit there and just it's good brain food while you're working.
Uh-huh.
To just be able to break off a little square, pop it in, and
Hmm.
makes me not focus on the sheer weight of the world.
Right.
And it's nice. A little bit of almonds in there, never hurt anybody.
True story.
Some salt too. I like some salty chocolate.
Hmm.
Yeah, chocolate flavored things, not so much. Chocolate milk. Chocolate milk is awesome. I will say that. Chocolate milk at any age, I can drink way too much of that at one time.
Hmm.
Nowadays, it's almond milk if I'm drinking chocolate milk, but still good.
Yeah.
Chocolate soy milk, not bad either. Chocolate ice cream, no thank you. Overrated.
Hmm.
Always been against the chocolate ice cream. Uh, yeah, no, I like chocolate.
All right. I wasn't expecting such a long answer, but
Oh, I
I'm
can
glad
go
I
on.
got one. I'm sure you could. I'm sure I could give you any prompt and you could talk for an hour.
Yeah, it's the hard ones that are hard.
Yeah, that's true. The hard ones are hard.
I don't like them. I do like them.
All right, this is the last question I've got for you. If you had a magic wand, how would you change the world and why?
Aaron Yeager. No, I'm just kidding. Um, ethnic cleanse. No, I'm just kidding.
Jesus.
That's Aaron Yeager in a nutshell.
I know.
But for those that don't know,
From Attack on Titan.
yes. So how would I change? Give me the punchline of the question again.
The punchline.
Yeah, magic wand. How would I change the world
And why?
and why? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm.
Going deep into thought.
Oh God, because I mean, I don't think about these things very often because I generally consider myself a realist,
Uh-huh.
and so
But now you
well,
have a magic wand
yeah,
to change the world. It's real.
God, that responsibility is incredible.
True.
Change the world.
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. Think I'm on to something here.
I can't wait.
So I could either go very dark with good reasoning,
Uh-huh.
or very virtuous that my conscience tells me will be inevitably tainted.
Mm.
And so I'll start with that one because that's the more happy one.
But you're saying every light casts a shadow?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And that's actually very that analogy is very on point in this case because
Mm.
I immediately went to, end world hunger,
Uh-huh.
you know, because world hunger is the driver of pretty much every crime. Like
Hmm.
when nobody wants to starve, and withholding, it's
Hmm.
control, it's all of that. I was thinking I'd make it to where humans photosynthesize.
Sweet. I've thought about that a lot.
We are able to derive nourishment from our sun.
Yeah.
But the shadow would then be we are greedy beings, and we would start commercializing sunlight, and it would be the same shit, just
Right.
now not with vegetables and meats, but
Hmm.
with hey buddy, you've been standing in the sun for too long. You haven't used your sun card. Your sun card's out of minutes.
Yeah.
You gotta go work in the mines some more. But how am I supposed to do that without any sunlight to feed myself? Not my problem. It's just so yeah. And then the other one was just get rid of humanity.
Jeez. You would just exterminate the human race.
Yeah, just yeet us, delete us, and
All right.
because yeah, I can't see any good that I could any in the game of Jenga that is life. I can't see
Mhm.
one piece that I pull out that'll make a difference, I guess that's a bad analogy, but uh because it's more like pieces are constantly being pulled out.
Yeah,
Um
true.
and we're expected to make it balance. But yeah, I can't think of one thing. I mean, magic wand, it's sort of a one wish is sort of my vibe I get from that question. Because if I just have a magic wand, then I could continually make changes
You could.
and stuff.
I mean,
But
that's
then
what I was.
somebody would kill me for the magic wand.
Maybe,
Um,
maybe. I mean, you don't know that. You could make yourself some protections. Like you could change whatever you want.
yeah, and see, that was the other thing I was thinking is I could just be selfish as hell,
Hmm.
and I could very well see myself doing that. Um, because I mean, the world can be as small as my social sphere,
Hmm.
so how could I change the world? I could start a movement within, all of a sudden none of my friends all of a sudden have to pay for rent anymore because I've got a
Hmm.
magic wand. And then we could all pursue our ideals. I
Nice.
could, just secretly cure cancer. And
Hmm.
all of a sudden people just aren't getting cancer anymore. The US government is panicking because the pharmaceutical companies are in disarray because all of a sudden
Right.
nobody's getting sick anymore.
Yeah.
And
That would
so
be a
yeah,
good one.
I would be just very quiet about it, I guess,
Hmm.
and just make little
That's probably for the
virtuous
best.
changes here, because no kid should be dying of cancer.
Right.
You know, uh, yeah, no, I'd probably just do something along those lines. If I had
Okay.
one wish, yeah, it'd probably be something along the lines of getting rid of some sort of world calamity, I guess,
Uh-huh.
some sort of major issue with the world.
Cool.
Um,
Well, that's good. All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. We
you're
all
welcome.
now know who you are.
A little bit at least. Um, you haven't seen me in my kitchen at 2 a.m.
Yes, I have.
Well, you have, but I can go down some very dark tangents,
True.
depressing ones. Um, that's just because that's fun. Because to me at least.
All right then.
Yeah,
I'm,
uh,
you know,
that was a
tried
fun
to,
episode. Like
I'm
I've never
glad
been
it was fun.
interviewed to that extent. I've had job interviews. None of them have questions like that.
Because see, that's how I used to conduct job interviews at the bookstore. No, I'm kidding. That would be funny if you did have a job interview like that, and those were all the questions you get. Like, compile the questions from the last episode and this one, and just ask people. Okay, well, I guess we'll give you a job at Target now, depending on how you answer all of these questions.
What was your
But
worst failure and how did it
right,
change?
how did it change you?
That actually does sound like a job interview
It
question.
kind of does, but yeah, they wouldn't be asking for something so.
No, they always ask for the damn strengths and weaknesses thing,
Yeah,
and you're always just supposed to lie.
yeah, which makes it's lame. It's stupid. Like I hate that question.
My weakness, I work too hard.
Yeah. Yeah, you're supposed to give a weakness that sounds like a strength. But to me it's like, well, they already know you're doing that. So is that the game? To see if you're
Yeah,
clever enough to lie
yeah,
because
probably.
or to twist it to and if you don't, then
I just get so immersed in my work. I
yeah.
pay so much attention to detail in my work that sometimes I can lose a little bit of track of time, just making sure
Yeah.
that I pay so much attention
Hmm.
to my
Yeah.
job,
God,
making
that's like
coffee.
dumbest I hate that question because it's a BS question and everybody knows it. Oh well.
Yeah,
But
job interviews in general are, I mean, they're just
yeah,
to see if you're crazy,
pretty
the
much.
wrong kind of crazy.
Yeah. It's like, are you crazy enough to work here or are you too crazy to work here?
Right. Amen. Because I mean, outside of, because they probably have a good idea if they're going to hire you or not based on your credentials,
Yeah.
ideally,
Uh-huh.
um, beforehand, but they need to bring you in to see if you're crazy.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. You walk in just dressed like Big Bird,
Yeah.
eating a lollipop and
You've got,
molesting a child. I don't know what.
yeah, you've got other like day old lollipops like stuck to your Big Bird costume. And like halfway through the interview, you get done, and you're a lollipop chewer too.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah,
just
you crunch it, just
bite into it.
and then you just pull one off of your Big Bird costume and stick that one in your mouth. Yeah, you're hired. Just what
As
we
a
need at Petco.
right back or they hire you to be a prison warden. I don't know.
Sheesh.
Or both, a prison warden at Petco.
It's pretty much what Petco is.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Oh well. Yeah, good interview. Thank you for being as loquacious as I know you can be. Thank you
I
for
could have been more. I'm holding back.
digging deep. You dug
Yeah.
pretty deep. I mean, if you let loose anymore, we'd be up for another 800 hours. I don't
Yeah.
even know. But yeah,
True that.
so that's two episodes of Who Even Are We? Now y'all know who we are. I hope, feel free in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube to answer any one of these questions yourself.
Oh, true that.
Yeah, I would love to hear how any of you would answer any of these questions because that's just, tell us who you are. We told you who we are. Tell us who you are. Let's get to know each other. Have a conversation. Um, and then what next episode is that
What are you
what are
reading?
you reading?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fun one. Um, we'll just go over things we are currently reading.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to swap a few of those
Yeah.
here and there.
Yeah, for sure. Like what we're currently reading, what we've recently been reading.
Yeah, recent can be as subjective as we deem it to
Right,
be.
I agree. I agree. Because we're gonna talk about books.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty
It's gonna be a
much.
good time.
I agree. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that one. But I guess that's it for this episode though. So feel free to comment in the comment section below on YouTube. You can email us at autodidacticapodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening to the podcast and want to send us a comment. We do, like, we've been bad about it recently, but we do check the email. We do respond to comments in the show. So feel free to drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe. We're on Amazon now. I'm working on getting us in other places. So we're Spotify and Amazon right now. So that's it. That's our show. You have anything
Thanks
to
for
add?
tuning in.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you all for listening to me get a little bit vulnerable here and there. But I'm pretty much an open book anyway,
True story.
so I don't really keep too much of it sealed away. Just the deepest, darkest thoughts that no one needs to hear about besides
Right.
me and Glenn in my kitchen uh,
Right.
at
Yeah.
3 a.m., which we're rapidly
Well, I was about
approaching.
to say, which it almost is. So,
Yeah.
all
So
right.
thank you all for listening to who we are.
Yeah. And next time, talk about what we're reading.